So one of the reasons that muscles fatigue might be that we have a buildup of lactic acid in the muscle. That is traditionally what was thought to be the major reason. And you'll remember that lactic acid is a byproduct of anaerobic metabolism of glucose to produce ATP. So this is what we produce when we're not getting enough oxygen to aerobically break down the glucose to produce a lot of ATP. So anaerobic exercise produces more lactic acid. And anaerobic exercise could include weightlifting. It could also include high intensity interval training. It could also include a yoga class. There are other reasons why we might have muscle fatigue. And one of these is that we could have a decrease in the release of calcium ions into the inside of the cell. And you'll remember what those calcium ions do. They are important in regulating whether or not muscle contraction will occur, and they bind to the molecule troponin. So if they are not present, muscles cannot contract. We could also look at the depletion of one source of ATP, which was creatine phosphate. So creatine phosphate is a molecule that can be used to produce more ATP. And if we deplete it all, then it takes some time for it to be rebuilt. We could also have the depletion of glycogen stores. So glycogen is how glucose is stored inside of the cell. Glycogen is really just a polysaccharide of glucose, many glucose molecules bound together. This is how we store glucose in the muscles, but also how we store glucose in the liver. And then this storage of glucose when we need it, when our blood glucose levels are low, then that glucose can be released by the liver, but we can also use the glucose in the muscle cells. So when we deplete our glycogen stores, we tend to feel muscle fatigue. Another one would be the inability of motor neurons to keep up their release of acetylcholine. So this would be the failure of the motor neurons. To release acetylcholine, which can be abbreviated as ACH. So you remember that this is the neurotransmitter that's released in the synapse between the motor neurons and the skeletal muscle fibers. Another one that is not often talked about is this idea of tissue repair. So sometimes if we exercise extensively, like we're lifting really heavy weights, we might actually do damage. We might actually put like micro tears in the tissue, and that tissue needs to be repaired. So the tissue repair of, for example, the muscle, and that actually might lead to the production of more muscle cells or more muscle fibers. So you might have heard that lactic acid is the reason for muscle fatigue, but there are believed to be actually multiple reasons for your muscles becoming so tired that it feels like they can't work any longer. And